Larry Lederer called me up one day. He wanted to know my opinion about something. When I gave it, he said, "Thanks. It makes me feel better knowing you feel that way because I'm going to do the opposite." I was told I was disrespectful of truly rotten, disrespectful peers, that I lacked credibility. Michael Todd used to say to me, "Why don't you just die?" For no reason. They subjected me to Michael Reagan's favorite scene, slaughtering head blows. Yet I doggedly attempted to be loyal to the small company that I could keep in Pittsburgh Public High School until it became grossly untenable. Was it possible for me to demonstrate my respect for peers? Well, I didn't ask them to believe without corroboration what it was I was testifying to, but there was plenty of corroboration. So, if you look at me at the age of 8 or 9 years old, when Woodstock happened, and the half sisters took the family to see it at a drive-in, I stayed home. I got what I call my Woodstock scars on my wrist because I was trying to get in my basement window, and Richard Carle called it a flesh wound. They had this thing going, taking me to hair when I was 11 years old, loosen my morals, batter my brains in, and make the only safe place that I could go, because they were kidnapping me when they found me, torturing me, gassing me, was a big man named Donald. His father was in the military somewhere, I'm pretty sure. And he knew there was a child in there. And they gave the girls working papers. The Union did this. The Union issued, the U.S. Army issued, the Veterans Administration issued girls my age working papers. He said, "Just come back to us and tell us that he performed for you." That's what Greg Carl used to always say. Jimmy's going to perform for us. Why did they target me? Well, Kirshner has something called the too good principle. My grandparents were distinguished citizens of Poplar Bluff. They gave me an abiding sense of decency and morality. So when they used me very piteously, they also angled through my deafness. Your father would be very ashamed of you. But it's convenient for adults preying on a child's mind to imply that. But the truth was much more that I didn't have the vocabulary to describe what had happened. I didn't understand what had happened. They always made it out to be that they just hated me. And when the English got involved, they intoned, "He wouldn't be hated this way if there wasn't some reason." So they sent in the cross and the switchblade to find out why I was hated that way. There must be a reason. Guilty until proven guilty, in other words. He wouldn't be hated that way unless there was a reason. And you have Sean Lennon using shadows of himself and Gordon in the decoytery of the sandbaggers, because it's media control. Now, what I do know about that is that an economic agenda of counterintelligence is being shifted into place that targets me as a symbol. I'm not supposed to care about my life's work. It should be taken by the union and distributed to the people who killed my father. It's the reasoning behind that. Because of climate change and because of Nambaya, because of the honorary, the sacred African ancestors of Duchess Bank, and because Gweener says she's the leader of the indigenous. Hiroshima was wronged like Geronimo. And to them, they can cast me in the role of a symbol. And who's going to catch me if I jump into Ronald Reagan's camp? Oh, Bobby Kennedy and Tune. Lucky me. Meanwhile, the children of Gaza suffer from the barbarian skeleton clowns of Israel's army. I mean, those men are really wired out. I used to see them in Squirrel Hill, lunging around, holding pieces of twine, doing like this, shrieking into the telefence the night before JFK Jr.'s plane comes down. Boy, lucky us to have such friends. Lucky us to have them come in and say, why don't you just die? So the whole point is, I can never be rehabilitated on my honor as a voter, as a citizen of the United States. Never. They take extraordinary measures. They use call girls on me in a traumatized adolescence and turn it into a storyline of the feminazi glee club, a junior high school navigating team forever. They invade my privacy. They say I have a marital relationship with my pornography computer. Is that generous of Rome? They never allowed me to have children. They didn't raise me in such a way as to understand the symbolism of Sean Brooks locking me out of a church. They gassed me with such tremendous substances that my mind entered a state of vapor. And no matter how friendly they pretend to be, their goal is always the same: to be acid to me, to be backstabbing to me, to offer me false assurance, to lie to my face. And behind this is a shifty little galactic team that includes people from the show Star Trek who have targeted me, who refuse to pay me for my work, who virtually refuse to credit me for the evidence that I have developed. Somehow, God willing, Jeannie Tamburo taught me sign language. She was punished, and I went back to school and made honors for my poetry and came to appreciate poetry. I don't know how they managed to load the relationship I found online with someone I look up to as a poet, with their insidious innuendos, but they managed. And all of that is on hold. I'm deaf, so I never got to teach. My father was a brilliant teacher. My sister is a brilliant teacher. They tortured me and made me deaf, and they bragged about it, and they rubbed it in my face, and they made perfectly clear who they were and that they did this. They didn't bother to hide it. They just said, Everybody's saying, no, we didn't. No, we didn't. In unison, and everyone will. What is it that they have against me? Well, I'm white. I was symbolic of the sheltered American nice kid. I was mama's little boy, a mom's boy, they called me. And I was easy to push around. Sounds good. Beat them up some more, they said. And that's the way they think. And they say that I don't respect them. What is it exactly there is to respect in that arrangement, in that brutal, thuggish idea of an intelligentsia? What is there to respect? What is there to respect when a girl seduces you, gets pregnant, demands to have an abortion, and then says you're a wuss for crying? Why don't you take responsibility? Well, what is somebody like me supposed to say? Okay, I'll take responsibility. I was partnered with you when this happened. Why don't you take some responsibility for the fact that you turned this whole thing into a showdown with Donald Trump? That seems to be what motivated the girls who seduced me, is that they knew there was going to be a ledger and a Taliban. Why wouldn't TV take responsibility for her Neva pornographic starlet script? It's obviously what it was, which is what they said it was. And she went to selling by the pound on my budget with the people who she never complained about. And yet they're persecuting me because they impinged this soundtrack to be extruded for the linguistic anthropologist at Carnegie Mellon University to make what Twisted Ankle Louie could call a devil worshiper of a Jimmy Carter voter with the same initialism to his Jimmy C name. Sounds like Hollywood has discovered the aliens. I mean, are you talking about yourself, Twisted Louie? They needed an ideological toy. So they deafened me and started whisper campaigns around me. And they did it to get all geared up that I was somehow uh, a reject Slobomaniac that Bernie slandered in good cause. All I ask is to be paid for my work and my research. I'm not violating the truth by saying that the evidence implicates Reagan. I'm certainly not violating the truth. I could show you it. It's right here. I've showed it half a dozen times online. His attorneys, the good guys, had me in D.C. the day he claims he was shot, and he comes out and waves to me. If they're the good guys, why did they shoot at him? Because it was Pentagon Disney. It was a put on, is why. All the evidence suggests that. The brochure reads there's no such thing as objective reality, only what the jury believes. You expect me to cheer while you rattle on about Iran? Iran is a nice place. They're nice people. They're intelligent people. They're an ancient people. They've helped me in my academics and my recovery. You expect me to cheer when you bury children under rubble? Not even Hitler did that. I mean, not that he wouldn't have, but my God, it's unheard of. Who has ever heard of something that detestable and diabolical? And it's coming from these charming individuals like Will Zellbrun, admiring of Joseph Goebbels, who King Crimson wangled with Eno as the Jewish Defense League's representative on Mount Desert Island, who said, what would you think of a scheme to transform the human race? by injecting the blood, and then ran their AIDS program on Mount Desert Island. And Peter Gabriel came to his rescue and covered for him. They tried to destroy all the evidence. They blew up a neuroplasm that they'd implanted in my brain. And Tom Cotton is going to help them get away with it. Whatever for? Lindsey Graham's going to help them get away with it. Why? Because I guess they felt it was good for the tribe to donate a white like themselves for sacrifice. It's a Pope Carl idea. We'll sacrifice one, the tribe will heal. Pay me for my work and entries.